Jim and Bill, It's Another Day podcast has been on the air just over 3 years. We started our fourth year in December. Some people have asked, how many people do you think you reach? Well, here's what Variety said.
Variety reported that the podcast had reached 427 million downloads.
427 million downloads. Oh, and by the way, that figure was globally and for the year ending in 2024. I wonder where we are now. For those who found us and made us a part of your day, thank you. Well, hello there. It's the Weekend Update. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight. Glad to have you on board. It's the weekend show. Saturday is when we do this. And it's always interesting because, you know, the real news crew goes home. And then you have the people that sit there and go, okay, we got a whole weekend to mess with everybody.
There was a couple of great pictures. One of President Trump, and it said he's babysitting. And it shows President Trump walking Elon Musk's son, X. It's a strange name, but hey, Elon can do it. It's his little boy, and he loves him, which is very apparent. And apparently he's the kind of little guy that everybody can warm up to. There's a picture of President Trump, all, 6'5" of the guy, or 6'4", walking next to X to the helicopter yesterday to take off to go wherever they're going, maybe Mar-a-Lago. And the little boy is so excited. He's happy as a pig in whatever, He's going to go on the helicopter. Go ahead, yeah.
If you were a kid and you could pick any grandpa in the world, a grandpa that's going to spend a lot of time with you and do whatever you want and buy you stuff and go get all the little things that parents may not let you have, who would that be?
I think Donald would be a great grandparent. I think, well, look at how he treats his granddaughter Kai, which is Donald's daughter.
Right.
I mean, they have an incredibly warm, loving relationship. For her birthday, he bought her a Tesla. Now, when you're as wealthy as President Trump, you can buy gifts like that, But he thinks the world of her. She is a superlative golfer, from what I understand, and goes golfing with their grandpa all the time when they're down in Mar-a-Lago. Anyway, there was also an incident just before he walked to the helicopter. President Trump is very available to the media, so he walked over to a press gaggle. That's what they call it. It's like a flock of geese getting together with their pads, paper, cameras, and microphones. Well, President Trump, like he's done so many times before, walked up to the media, and he's standing there answering questions. One of the young female reporters who had a pole mic. A pole mic is when you can't get close physically to the president, almost like think of it as a broomstick with a microphone at the end. Well, she's got the pole mic, and she's holding it, and apparently she wasn't paying attention, and she literally hit the microphone into President Trump's face. Now, mind you, it had a windscreen on it, so it's like it's foam. It didn't hurt. But what amazed me, Bill, was the president is supposed to be watched by the Secret Service all the time. I mean, if anybody touches the president, at least this was in the past, or this is what you were told, they were swarmed, right? There was no.
There should have been somebody there to, when they saw it coming, put their hand up and block that mic.
Absolutely. You don't touch the president of the United States. Now, he's very accessible. Maybe he was too close to the microphones, but no, the microphone they should have stepped a foot back when he they should have known their place. And but I couldn't believe that the press were allowed to do that, and the Secret Service didn't swarm that reporter, because who's to say, and I'm just thinking off the top of my head, this is the writer in me, but what if there were, for example, a pin in that foam, and that pin had a poison in it, and she bumped the microphone into the face of the president, and it gave him some bad disease. These are the types of things that bad guys think of when they want to do someone harm.
I'll ask you this. How do you know she didn't do that?
Well, I don't know. I would think that this is just me. If I were the Secret Service After that press gaggle, I would have taken that young lady aside and I would have gone through her equipment with a fine-tooth comb to make sure that everything was okay. But
Well,
I don't
how do you know they didn't?
I don't know what they did, Bill.
Well, there's a lot of cases, where I see things going on, and I'm going, wait a minute. Are the good guys in charge? Or you've got 10,000 employees. Well, we're going to let go of 8,000. But out of those, 2,000 are there.
Yeah.
You can't go through each one individually and going, are you a Trump supporter or are you a loosey lefty? Because one thing about Democrats, they will defy at all cost, by any means, regardless, to the bitter end. They are at civil war with us. So
Yeah,
how do you stop all that?
Yeah.
There's things going on everywhere.
Bill, I agree. We are. If you don't think we're in the middle of a battle right now, then you're not paying attention. Look at the lawfare. Look at the lawfare. We have judges popping up all over the country blocking the president. Mind you, these are little judges in little districts who really haven't got a right to do what they're doing, but they're pushing the limit. And I guess they figure if they flood the zone with these interruptions in government, they will look like they have the right. They will claim the right. Do you know what I'm saying? And
Well,
go ahead.
There's a difference between voters because they're voting for what they personally believe in, their personal convictions and their ideals. And there's a difference between a blood association, like a gang member, all right? And, all right, you're an independent. You're a Democrat. You're a Republican. You vote, you share ideas, and then everybody votes, and the better candidate, the better ideas move forward. But if you're in a gang and you want to be in that gang, there's initiation, and no matter what, it's to the death. And that's just the way you play. And you've got people now that are political activists. They're members not of a party, but of a gang, a mob. And they have only one thing, that they want to do. And it doesn't matter whether they outnumber you or they're outgunned.
Well, it started, Bill. It started when Trump wasn't president.
Yeah.
It started with lawfare. It actually has started in his last term. But when he was out of office and they started to attack him, like no other president or person in government has been attacked before, they were relentless and they just kept going. Do you remember was it 31 convictions? Oh, he was a convicted felon. They wanted him to wear that description like a badge. 31 felony indictments against President Trump. This is a guy who did absolutely nothing wrong to deserve that, but they wanted to hang this around his neck. Now we have a situation where he's back in government. They don't know what to make of themselves. They really don't, but they know that they have to, no matter what it does for the country. I mean, the Democrats don't care whether a bill is good for the country. All they care about is that they have to be against Trump. It isn't like because they know how Trump is so powerful right now. He's so well-liked by so many people. They want to do everything they can to destroy this guy. And then that's where they're going. So, like you said, you get rid of 8,000. There's 10,000. You get rid of 8,000. You have 2,000 left. You don't know whether you have 2,000 loyalists or you have 400 loyalists and 1,600 who are fighting against you.
Well, here's what I would say. If 30% of the population voted left, so out of 1,000, that leaves you 300. Out of 2,000, that leaves you 600. And you can't go through ethically, legally, whatever, to sit there and go, oh, I'm sorry, you're on the opposite side. You'll get the hell out of here. Now, that is exercised. When Biden came in, he got rid of Republican people. Trump's coming in, he's getting rid of people that are obviously sitting there with their hand in the cookie jar, and he's getting away with or getting rid of some cookie jars that are just out there for no damn apparent reason. But
well, you have some judges who are saying, those 10,000 people you fired, well, you have to bring them back. There was one story today, Bill.
Mm-hmm.
There's a judge, and this is the kind of stuff they're doing. There was a criminal, a convicted murderer. He killed a little baby. His face is literally covered with tattoos. He looks like a gang member, okay? His face is covered with tattoos. This, I believe it was a Clinton-era judge, says,
yes,
you've got to allow this prisoner to have a sex change surgery, and it has to be paid for by the state, and it has to happen ASAP. Folks,
well, let me ask you a question.
The point
is this prisoner?
The point is, when I was a young man, prisoners didn't have rights like that. I mean, you couldn't go to court and say, I want a sex change. You were lucky if you got a chance to have clean sheets. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I was going, by what authority does this judge operate? There is no authority there for him to do that.
They claim it, Bill. They claim it because they have...
And we give it to them. And what right does that prisoner have? And how long is he going to live? Is he on death row, or is he granted to live out his life there? Is that not like opening up the candy store for him?
Well, you give him a sex change operation, and then you move him to where? You move him to a female prison.
Right.
The other thing is this, folks.
Who's getting the injustice there?
Well, we talk. You just asked a question. What rights does the prisoner have? These judges are claiming these rights, and they're making them like the law. Biden didn't accept that. Now, listen, Biden wasn't in charge. He wasn't thinking clearly.
Right.
The guy was out. He was gone. The guy was shaking hands with nobody we could see, right? But the point is this. When, for example, I keep pointing this out, but it's so true, when the college loans, he was forgiving the college loans, and the Supreme Court said, you can't do that. That's against the law. You have to immediately stop. Joe Biden turned to the Supreme Court and flipped them the fickle finger of fate, if you know what I mean, and continued to do it. And you know what the consequences were? Nothing. So I'm saying, maybe the Trump administration should say, wait a second, we are, and I've said this before, we're separate but equal branches of government with a little bit more deference to the executive branch. That's how it's set up. Maybe the executive branch should say, we're not going by your your laws. You can do whatever you want to do. As a sole and independent branch of government, we say these people are fired, and it's within our purview, and we're going to fire these people.
Here's the deal.
Go ahead.
If you're appointed to a position, now I'm not. I respect the position you have, but you are appointed, which means you are given orders by the chief executive that either the person that held the position that gave it to you at the time, or the person that replaces that person. You answer to them and them alone. You can't sit there and, go out and rogue and do what you want. Now, if you're elected into a position, you may have a little bit more authority because the people put you in. We, the people, did not put you, your royal, forget it, I'm not going to say it that way, but we didn't put you in place.
Right.
You have no authority. And the person that put you in place is no longer in authority. So I think, just like other people that are appointed or get jobs because of, I think if we're going to play this way, then I think judges that are appointed by Republicans when a Democrat's in, you're fair game to be taken out. I think that judges that are appointed by Democrats, when a Republican's in, you can take them out.
You make it sound like when Clinton's term is over and he leaves office, you should leave too because you were part of his staff that he appointed.
You're part of his agenda.
Yeah. That's an interesting, that's not going to happen, but I think it should happen. We were talking about what the strange things that are happening. I got a story here. It's from Ben Bergrum from Real America's Voice, which is a digital network, very successful digital network. One of my favorite talk show hosts who used to be on Newsmax but was let go for whatever reason, I don't know, Grant Stinchfield. He's over at Real America's Voice. He was doing an interview with Ben Bergrum about something which I thought was interesting. There's a faction in ICE that is releasing the captured criminals that they arrest back into society. You're saying,
Why?
What?
Why? I saw that.
Yeah.
Why?
Well, I'm going
By
to.
whose authority?
Well, let me play. This is the interview. I want you to hear it. This is a Ben Bergwam, who, by the way, during the border crisis was always the first with the stories about what was going on down there. The guy was fearless. He was walking the border by himself with his cameraman, getting some incredible stories. Listen to this. This is Grant Stinchfield talking with Ben Bergwam.
Got some additional news since we spoke last.
Okay, let's take it first. We're releasing illegals that Tom Homan's ICE agents arrested. I think anybody's jaw is going to drop at the news of this.
Yeah, and apparently, and it's not just San Diego. I got word from Phoenix, got word from multiple different offices across America. There's two branches of ICE. You've got HSI, the investigative side of it, and then you've got ERO, the removal side of it. And apparently, there are some deep state holdovers, Biden holdovers on the ERO side that are either refusing to process the people that HSI captures or slow walking it or just making the claim they don't have bed space, which is why I'm out here. I'll talk about this in just a minute. This is a Border Patrol soft site outside of El Paso, Texas. But apparently, many of these ERO offices are either refusing to or dragging their feet on it. And they actually released several of the people in that first operation that Tom Homan kicked off on that first Sunday. Many of those people were actually released by ERO. I'm getting that word.
All right, real quick on this. One, tell us what ERO is. And two, Tom Homan has to be steaming mad about this.
Yeah, enforcement removal operation. So that's the removal arm of the Homeland Security ICE. So they're the ones that actually are tasked with taking them once the illegals are captured, taking them through the process, taking them back to a judge, having that judge sign off on it. And this is the other problem. Also speaking to HSI, many of these attorneys' offices that are overseeing it, they are also trying to block many of these deportations. You have activist judges in place that are trying to block even Tren de Aragua, the worst of the worst. Some of these guys are being blocked from being removed by activist judges as well. So we've got every level of government is in opposition. We've got opposition actors against President Trump and Tom Homan. And yes, to answer the question, no doubt Tom Homan is pissed, and they are working through it as we speak. These guys are, and you see what Kash Patel's already doing. They're not messing around. If you're blocking them, they're coming after you with the full force of the law.
All right, so it appears to me this would be a great definition of what the deep state looks like. They just want open borders. They want these people roaming the country. They want chaos, and they are hell-bent on keeping it chaotic. I'm glad we're getting a handle on it, though. It appears Tom Homan at least are aware of this now. You say you have new news. What's the new news you want to tell me?
Well, you talk about salt in the wound. One of the reasons why ERO, again, enforcement removal operations, is saying they can't take the illegals is they don't have enough bed space. But what we're not talking about are the hundreds of thousands of beds that were created by Joe Biden and the Democrats to invite the invasion. These are what are considered soft sites. This one behind me in El Paso holds roughly around 7,500 people. It costs $1.2 million a day to operate. And I just got breaking news that this place is closing tomorrow. So it was opened and contracted through using, it's not even owned, it's on county property. Then Border Patrol contracted the county to run this. They've got all these NGOs, leftist, communist NGOs that are a part of operating the thing. And then they used it to invite the invasion. And I'm saying, well, ERO's saying we don't have bed space. We've got these facilities all over the country, but instead of actually using them, they're shutting them down. I just got word Del Rio closed 2 days ago, but this one behind me is set to close tomorrow.
Now, Ben, the beds are there. They're paid for. If Biden, if Kamala had won, these contracts would have been extended clearly. Now, I don't want the NGOs having any part of the deportation. They'll take them out in a van and to make a U-turn and sneak them back in on the next turn. But again, is there anybody at a federal level? I mean, I go back to Tom Homan because he is the border czar now. Is there anybody that can say, hey, you know what? We want to use these.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when I say shut down, by the way, I'm standing in a dust storm right now. So squint my eyes a little bit, I'm blocking the sand from hitting me. That's the beauty of El Paso and the desert. But yes, absolutely. So when it's shut down, it's being shut down for the operations that it was previously being used for inviting the invasion. My hope is, I haven't got confirmation. I've got some calls in to Tom and to some the Border Patrol Chief, Rodney Scott. I'm reaching out to them to find out if we can do the reverse, which I really hope we can. But you're absolutely right. We're going to have to hire different contractors because you're not going to get Catholic Charities to help you out. Now, honestly, even if they wanted to, I wouldn't hire them to do it because they're traitors to our country. So we have to find people that are on our side, that believe what we believe, to hire out as subcontractors. The big problem is the left has an entire network of traitors within our own country that are set up to do exactly what we saw over the last 4 years and invite that invasion. They're communist churches, they're communist organizations that have been doing this for decades. We have to develop the same sort of network to expel the illegals.
Yeah, that's he just said it. The left has a network of people whose job it is at every turn to throw roadblocks in front of everything this administration is doing.
But here's why. See, they have been indoctrinated, trained that right bad, left good. So they honestly believe that we are the bad guys trying to take away democracy and tear down this
that's all
nation.
well and good, Bill, but if you go by how the system is set up,
they didn't win the election.
They didn't win.
Have no say.
That's exactly right. We are the ones, and we're the ones who have the power now. We are the ones who were voted in by 77 million people. We have supposedly the law on our side, yet they're warping that law. They're bending that law.
Well, part of bending that law is to make sure they stay in power, and that's what. If you want to know the true agenda of open borders and bringing in people, it is for that power and control. And you're right. I mean, the winning party, does rule, but somewhere they've forgotten their American history of how this system works. It's not us and them, and that's how they're looking at it. It's we, the people. You have your feelings that, maybe we ought to do things this way. I'm going, I don't think that'll work. We ought to do it this way. We air things out. We do an election, and that's how we make the decisions.
Yeah, but that's not how they work.
No, it's not.
Let me give you
changed it.
Let me give you an example. Down in Tennessee yesterday, there were protests in the Tennessee House of Representatives as lawmakers debated a bill that would allow public schools to bar illegal migrants from enrolling their children in public schools. Now, what they don't tell you, I saw the video of this, and I know I'm making a judgment call here, but many of the people who were protesting in the House looked like they were illegals. I know that's an observation maybe I shouldn't make, but they looked like they'd the same people who came across the border. And I think that's happening right now. If you go up to Columbia University, those people who are picketing, they talk about students are protesting. I don't think a lot of those people who are protesting around Columbia are students. I think a lot of them are either paid activists or people who have an agenda who probably shouldn't be here. I mean, we're talking about getting rid of Khalil. What's his name? His name, Mahmoud Khalil. That's great. But there's probably 100 of the same types of people out in that mob. You probably, if you went out and arrested all like Mahmoud Khalil, you would have a busload of people to export.
Right.
And Bill, I don't know, President Trump, he is trying to, and I see it all the time, he talks about following the law. I hear them saying, well, when we already filed an appeal to the X court, the appeals court, or the Supreme Court. I think there's going to come a point where he's got to sit down and say, they're going to call me a dictator anyway. They're going to call me all these names anyway because that's how they roll on the left. So I'm going to just start doing stuff that's going to really tick them off. I'm going to do the stuff that Joe Biden did,
I don't know that Trump is saying, I'm going to tick him off, because Trump has an agenda. He's just saying, I'm going to do what I'm going to do.
But he's not doing it now. He's not.
No.
Right now he's following the law, which is, it's frustrating. It's frustrating.
But you know what?
Go ahead.
That's how you prove that you're on the side of America. You do it by the rules. You do it by the numbers, line by line. Now, at some point in time, it becomes so damn obvious that there's no other way to do it. But going back to our opening statement, after everything we just said, you see him trying to do everything by the law and do it right. You see the left going, we don't accept it. We don't accept it. We're doing this. We're doing that. You lost the election, but we're still going to do what we want to do. We're at a divide. We're at a civil war.
When I was a young man, right, there were riots in Chicago, and they sent in the National Guard, and there was no question. I mean, today, there would be a big uproar, and there'd be all sorts of judges weighing in, and people would be trying to stop the president from doing something. But back then, I guess it was Lyndon Johnson. You know, he sent in the National Guard. Next move. What do you want? You know, they made decisions, and it was damn the torpedoes, full speed ahead. Nowadays, it's everything is being thought about. You know, I don't know. Go ahead, you were saying, Bill?
No, I'm just saying we've hit that point in society where all I can tell you is what's playing out today in future generations that aren't even born yet. You know, or young Generation Zs, when they're older, they're going to look back in their senior years and go, yeah, that was the stain on our society. Whatever society prevails, this is going to be a stain on society in our history. It's going on in Serbia right now. You've got factions that are out there trying to undermine and trip up the government, and they're deliberately sabotaging to get into civil war.
Well, I do think that the left would like us to have a civil war here, and I think and when you hear Maxine Waters say that Trump wants to have a civil war, well, here's exactly what she said.
What does Trump expect? Oh, I believe he expects violence. I believe he expects confrontation. I believe he's working toward a civil war.
No, Maxine. You want a civil war. That's why you throw these things out. This is the same woman who, in the first term, was telling all of her people to go in the faces of people if they're having dinner in a nice restaurant, interrupt their dinner. You know, yell and scream at them, chase them out of the restaurant, ruin their private time. She's despicable. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, what this reminds me of, there are good parents and bad parents. There are kids that are spoiled brats that don't get their way. Now, some parents, they will sit there and teach the child a hard lesson. There are other parents that just, capitulate to them, give in, and you've got a spoiled brat. You've got a party of spoiled brats,
Yeah.
And they'll have a hissy fit. So, yeah, they want a civil war because they think the Republican Party, the sensible adults, will capitulate.
Yeah.
Do not capitulate. These kids need to learn a lesson.
Harris Faulkner was talking about the problem we're having with illegal removals right now on her show yesterday. Harris Faulkner on Fox. And it was an interesting interview. Listen.
It's a different, on this list of legal battles, another one. A federal court yesterday blocked the Trump administration from sending 3 detained Venezuelans to Guantanamo Bay. The president has promised to expand the prison to hold up to 30,000 criminal, violent, illegal aliens. New images now show the first plane arrivals there, and DHS Secretary Kristi Noem visited that site last week. And here's what she said about who actually is being held there.
I watched a plane load of people unload at Gitmo that were pedophiles, child pornographers. They were drug dealers in our communities that literally these cartels are partnering with the Chinese to kill our next generation of Americans. That's who we're putting down there at Gitmo.
So we know about what's happening in Gitmo. There's been transparency there. We also know that there's some challenges there. What's your take on it, Phil, legally?
Well, I think the concern with respect to those individuals going down to Guantanamo Bay might be something along the lines of whether they have access to counsel. That's a legitimate legal concern, but there's nothing inherently wrong, Harris, with the president housing, or the administration housing individuals who are legitimately detained or arrested under the immigration laws. They're in the custody of the United States government. Where they are housed is more or less irrelevant. As long as they have access to counsel, basic constitutional due process safeguards are in place, that's perfectly fine. It's my understanding that particular injunction might be going away. I hope that it does, because once the government offers assurances to the judge that, no, these people are going to have due process. Look, the people that were there, the terrorists that were there, the government was able to give them some type of due process. So that's not going to be a problem. I think in the long run, the president is going to be able to continue to use the facilities at Guantanamo Bay if that's what his judgment is.
So all of that, though, and I want to just quickly touch on this lawfare, and you're right. I mean, that's what I've been calling it. You called it 2.3. I think it's all part of the same chain, because it's a push against a man who was a candidate experiencing that, who's now president experiencing that. Your take?
Yeah, it is lawfare. It's the whole idea of the left is going to resist. They're going to take it to the courts. They're even taking it to the streets. They're doing everything they can to thwart the will of the American people who elected Donald Trump president. He said he was going to do these things. He is doing these things. It should not surprise anyone. At the end of the day, Harris, it is wrong for the courts to overstep their Article 3 power and try to basically inject themselves, the courts, into the operations of the executive branch. It's just not how our system of separation of powers was intended to work.
Well, and you're right about that. I mean, the American people, not only did they vote last November, but I mean, recent polling shows that they want the current president to keep going in majority forward with what he's doing. Phil Holloway, thank you so much.
Okay, here's what I think, and based upon what I have been able to find out, these judges, they're kind of like in for life, these federal judges, but they can be, from what I understand, they can be impeached by Congress. And what I think Congress should do right now, I'm talking the majority rule Republican Congress, should not take them one at a time. They should get a list. They should go out and start taking names.
Wholesale
on all of these judges. Now, they may say you can't do it. Well, try it. Just give it a shot. And then impeach them all. Get them the hell out of the system. They are running interference for the Democrats. Go ahead, Bill.
No, I'm just saying, yeah, wholesale, get rid of them. I've always said that. But you're going to run into problems from the left. And I think you're going to run into some problems on the right, because one thing Republicans don't do, it's like watching a marching band and you got 3 or 4 kids that just don't march to the band, the leader of the band. And they go off in their own direction.
Yeah, there's always one kid who's walking out of step. Yep, you're right.
Democrats don't do that. They're all like they're goose stepping all the way along. And I say that deliberately, goose stepping, because the left likes to sit there and go, Nazi, 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 fascist. If you are willing to call somebody a Nazi and call somebody a fascist, that's what you're doing. Chances are you're a Nazi and you're a fascist. Think about that before you sit there and cast that label out there.
Yeah, if there's somebody in Washington who is either in Congress listening to this program or knows somebody who is in Congress and you have influence, you might want to suggest that they do what we just look into, doing a wholesale removal of these corrupt judges. And I say corrupt because what I think they're doing is illegal, based upon what you just heard a former U.S. Assistant District Attorney Phil Holloway say. They're running interference. They are sticking their nose where they shouldn't. They're violating the law. What do you say? Article 3? Where they're supposed to, there are limitations to what they can do, but they are ignoring their limitations. You got a little district court in East Podunk, you're right, a federal district court, and this little federal judge is raising his hand out in the woods somewhere, and he's saying, the president hasn't got the right to do that, and I want him to stop it nationally. You got one little dude who's unelected stopping the executive branch from doing their job.
Here's a problem, and I don't know, I know how you fix it, but when you have a country of laws, we're a land of laws. There are so many damn laws that not everybody knows every law. So we kind of need to go back and get back to the basics and take some of these little nuances and throw them out, because that's how these judges hang on. They take something, they twist it, give it new meaning. We need to specify implicitly what it really is about, but we don't do that. I mean, look, I've got a son that's a statey, and I'm going, wow, you went to training and all that. You know every single. Oh, there's so many laws. Oh, there's more laws than we know what to do with, or we even know about, or you know about. But we can pull anybody over and write them up for something if we need to, because they have quotas and stuff. I'm just saying, we need to break it down. Are there laws in the books that we don't know about, that we don't need?
Oh, they probably are. There's a guy
Can
who
we clean it up, refine it, and get it down?
There's a guy who I
basics?
watch regularly, and he is his name is Carl Higbee. He's on Newsmax, and I like the guy. He's a former Navy SEAL. He's a bit rough around the collar, and that's probably what is attractive. He's not trying to be the perfect anchor, the perfect TV personality. He is a guy, and he talks like one of us, and his audience is growing in leaps and bounds. This guy, but he has this thing where he believes one page, one law, and I think he's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
Simple English. If you can't explain it on one page, well, then just don't do it. You can't do it. And that should be the law. The law should be the new laws are done in easy to read and easy to understand English and can be put on one page. And
I think everything should be that way. I've always been a person of one thought. Keep it down to one thought. So when it comes to laws, now, somebody might sit there and go, well, we've got 100,000 laws. But we can break it down to one thought. Do you need 100,000 laws?
Look at every time you buy a new piece of software or just download a new piece of software, they have rules and regulations and service agreements and all that stuff, and you have to agree to them, right? Well, nobody on the planet reads those things because they're in small print, and they're probably multiple pages of legalese that you don't understand in the first place. But see, here's the problem. That there's some lawyer out there who does understand what the hell you just signed. And you probably committed to something that you can't imagine you committed to, but you needed the software. You needed to get that piece of equipment running, and that was the software that came with it. We have a sea of that stuff out there, Bill.
That lawyer specializes in that one particular thing, and that's where the problem is. There shouldn't be that kind of thing where you have these specialty laws that that guarantee your existence. In other words, but see, they wouldn't make any money that way. It's about ensuring their livelihood, and screw you. But I think that life is not as complicated as we make it. But we sure have done. We're going to legalize ourselves out of existence before it's all done.
Interesting thing has been going on. There's been a lot of swatting of personalities at their homes. One of the guys who was swatted was Joe Pagliarolo, who does a talk show, and he's really a very good talk show host. Conservative, great voice. He goes by Joe Pags. And he was swatted, and he said it was like 2 a.m. He heard his security cameras go off, the beeping noise, and he looked outside and he saw a guy at his front door with an AR-15 or whatever, with an assault rifle, and he didn't know whether. In the first instinct, because Texas is a carry state.
Yeah, I would have been there with my gun.
Well, yeah, but then again, you're going to get shot at your own doorstep. For going to your own door with a gun, you're going to get yourself killed, right? The second thing he thought of doing, and the thing that he ended up doing, was calling 911, which I thought was a great idea. He called 911. He said, "Hey, I'm here, and there's guys with rifles outside, and they're knocking on my door. Are you at my house?" And they said, "Yeah, we've had a report that there's somebody at your house. They've got you held hostage. They're threatening to kill somebody. And they went through a whole litany of things. And he said, well, that's not the case. That's not the case. I'm going to go to the door, but please tell your people to lower their weapons. There's nothing wrong here. I'll open the door, and they did. They lowered the weapons. He went out. He had a nice conversation with the policeman. Hey, the poor cops, they didn't want to be there at 2 a.m. with the threat of a killer in a house, But here's what happened yesterday. Kash Patel came out yesterday, and he said, effective, we know about these reports. We know what's going on. And we're coming after you guys who are filing these swatting reports, and we're going to put you in jail. Another guy, Bill, who was swatted. I don't know that you know this guy. He's a very funny guy, but he's also a smart guy. His name is Sean Farish, and one of the things he impersonates Trump's voice. You probably have heard him.
Yes,
he sounds just like him, but he was swatted. Here's how his story went. Listen.
Hey guys, it's Sean, my wife Brennan, and just wanted to give you guys an update. We did just get swatted here in Tennessee. The officer said they received a phone call that somebody murdered somebody in the house and was planning a suicide by cop. So I received the call with that information. We cooperated with police. They were very nice.
They were actually very nice.
Very, very nice. They were not aware that this was going on across the country. Was that, how did you feel about that? What was going through your head when you saw officers in the backyard with guns?
I was shaking. I was terrified. I was the only one awake. He was asleep.
Yeah.
And they were just pointing their guns into the house, and I was very scared. I was very scared.
And that's the point, and that's what these people are trying to do. They are trying to silence folks who are not afraid to speak their mind online. And you've seen it happen to so many other people across the country. We're going to do what we can from Tennessee to try and get to the bottom of who's responsible for it. I'd like to see the Justice Department or somebody somewhere get involved with getting to the bottom of it, because you can see it's not a joke. You're coming up to people's homes with very, very big guns that are very unsettling to a lot of people. And, one wrong move could create a disaster. And
Sean handled it very well. He was very calm and collected.
Yeah, because we're seeing it happening all across the country. Yeah. We have nothing to hide. None of this stuff happened. But the bottom line is that if the result was that the person or people who did this was that I was going to stop doing things, it's not going to happen. So we're not blinking. It sucked. It was not ideal. And then they sent pizza.
Yeah.
Domino's and Papa John's both showed up. So, then they said it was a cash order. That doesn't mean the person paid with cash. They meant it. You have to, COD. So for anybody else who's dealing with it, if you got pizza, you are not alone either. But bottom line is, I'm not going to stop. That's not the result that these people are going to get. If it happens to anybody else, feel free to let either one of us know on social media. It could definitely be worse, What happened to the J6ers was that times 100, so it could have definitely been worse. Our law enforcement out here, Rutherford County Sheriff, they were phenomenal, very nice, very understanding after the whole thing kind of sorted itself out. We're happy that they responded in that way. If somebody in the neighborhood is doing what we were, of course, accused of doing, I would want that response. Mm-hmm. I want to live in a safe neighborhood, and it looks like we do.
Yes.
So we want to thank them. They were very nice. They're very professional.
They made sure our cats did not get out.
That's right. And to the folks who are doing it, well, we're now going to do whatever is necessary to find out who it is, and to the fullest extent of the law, hold them accountable. And we're hoping that the Justice Department and FBI and anybody else who can help us will do so. Because, in my opinion, it's not just harassment. When you're dealing with weapons, it's terrorism. So
terrifying.
It's not cool, but it means we're over the target, and we're going to keep pounding the target. But we wanted to let everybody know. Thank you for checking in. We really appreciate it, and we're all safe. We're good, and we will be right back at it tomorrow. Have a great night, guys.
That's Sean Farish and his wife. And, like I said, Kash Patel said we're on it. We were aware of it, and we're on it. And they have resources, Bill, from what I understand, that they can trace these calls. They can find out even days later. If they can find out, the number, they can probably do a back history on that number and
What kind of emotional harm does that do to somebody when they're being swatted?
Oh, I would imagine significant. You live in a secure world, and all of a sudden your security's shaken.
Yeah. So if a certain party is behind doing this for no reason, is that not cause? Because this is something Democrats understand. Is that not cause for a lawsuit to sue your pants off?
Well, what they don't talk about, and I remember this from like a couple of years ago, is there was a guy who was swatted and killed in his own house.
And that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
They are causing potentially irreparable harm to you.
Sure.
And the lifetime of emotional distress, you dream at night. Thousands of dreams. You replay the day. Your mind organizes everything. You forget 90% of your dreams when you wake up, but it causes deep emotional harm to you that you could not put a price on.
Apparently, Sean Farish, he took it well, and his wife took it well. They were really
yeah, they did,
and so did Joe Pags, and I think Kash Patel is serious. I'm hoping he's serious. He's only been in office 2 weeks, and Pam Bondi, I think, has been in office like 5 weeks. These people are brand new, and they're still getting their sea legs, and we kind of expect a lot more from them, I think, than we really should at this point. But there's so much that has to be done. There's so much that has to be done, and we're anxious to see some results.
Well, they don't know who all the players are. There's somebody sitting at a desk with their head down, not saying anything. Looks like they're doing their job, and they might be putting this together. But the swatting's an old playbook, and I think that if I heard knocks at the door at 2 a.m., it's never a good thing, that. But I would sit there, and if I looked out or looked on the security camera and go, "Oh, what's this?" I would have probably done the same thing, called 911 and said, "Hey, is there what's going on?" To diffuse and do anything like that. I would say that for anybody,
Well, the interesting thing is apparently what they do is they order pizza, a lot of these people, and they have it sent to the address. It's like a verification of the address. If they send pizza and the pizza gets delivered, then they have the right address, okay? This is what the bad guys do. So if you find that you get pizza delivered to your house that you didn't order, call the police. I'm serious. Just call the police.
Yeah.
Say, look, I just got some pizza delivered to my house, and I know that in recent times it has been the precursor to a swatting episode, and I want you to know that I got this stuff delivered, and let them be aware. Put them on notice. Go ahead.
Well, let me ask you this. If somebody sent you a pizza that you didn't know where it came from, would you take a piece of pizza and eat it? I wouldn't.
Well, he said it comes from Domino's or it comes from Papa John's. So, this is somebody who is calling an established commercial place. They're not delivering it from their house. It's not a homemade pizza.
I'm still not going to eat it. If something comes in, something comes in unsuspected, anticipated, I wouldn't eat it. And I really don't call for delivery anymore anyway. I think it's, I'd rather just go get it. You never know.
Over the weekend, you probably have heard about this. Tornadoes reporting near St. Louis.
Yeah.
With 1.5-inch size hail balls. This is bad news. This is serious. And it's a big line that goes from like the upper Midwest right down towards New Orleans, and it's moving east. Now, I live east. And
so do I.
Yeah, so I'm a little concerned. They're not predicting it. I guess they're saying it's probably going to dissipate as it moves east, but historically that hasn't been the case. Now, let me give you an example. This morning I woke up, the weather forecast where I live said rain, right? Possibly rain. A little while ago I checked it. It says rain and severe thunderstorms possible.
So it's gathering up.
Yeah, exactly. So what's it going to be tonight?
Steam.
Yeah.
Yeah, and look, you don't want to be outside and get hit by a 1.5 inch.
Oh my God! It's like a baseball hitting you, Bill.
Oh, it was. Yeah, like a big bullet or something. That, it'd kill you. And
by the way, if you're driving through that stuff,
it'll take out your window.
Oh, take out your window, and your car will look like
bullet holes all over the place.
Yeah, exactly.
I've had a car that got hail damage when I lived down in Louisiana.
Yeah.
And I sat there and they said, well, we'll give you this kind of check. And I'm going, is that going to cover the damage? Oh, there's no way to get rid of this. I'm going like, write the car off,
Yeah.
Because not my fault.
Right.
And it's the clause in the contract. Well, there's a deductible. Great. I'll give you the $100 deductible.
Yeah.
Eat the car. Give me a new one.
They couldn't. They would have had to take every piece of body off the car,
reskin that car, yes,
or pound it all out.
No, I think there's. I don't want to get into the woods on this. I mean, there are ways that they try to pop it out.
Oh, sometimes they do it with pullers. They call it. They drill a hole through the body, and they put like a rod through it, and then they have a weight on the rod, and they pull the weight and pull it out.
They got to
that way.
bond to it and body it.
Yeah,
you don't want that. The other way is to park it out or put it under heat with a warm blanket. It draws the heat, draws up the dents. But forget it. You're not going to get it all done, and it looks like hell. Get rid of the car. But what's going on with the weather? That's the real story. This is kind of odd.
Yeah.
And usually, now I lived in the Bible Belt, the tornado belt, and you could get things like that because you get a cold front and a warm front, and they collide. And in that immediate area, well, you get the hailstorms. You stick your hand out the window, as the old saying goes, and you can catch all hell. But either way, we're catching all hell all the way across the country. Now, that's a little bit odd to me.
Well, from what I understand, they have scales of rating these situations, and normally it's like a 3 out of 5, 3.5 out of 5, 4 out of 5. But very rarely do you get 5 out of 5. I think the last time it happened was like 13 or 14 years ago, long time ago. Well, this is a situation where it's a 5 out of 5. They're looking at this situation like there's no way they're going to not have tornadoes, not have hail and thunderstorms and high winds.
All right.
Go ahead.
Let me ask you this. And we'll throw out the conspiracy there. We know that they can manipulate weather. I think that's not a deep, dark secret anymore. Is this part of a scheme to build the case for climate warming, global change, stuff like that?
Look, they'll take every opportunity they can. I also think, Bill, it's a way to change the narrative, distract.
Yeah.
It's to get people to stop talking about something and move on to something else. Let's have a.
What do they want to distract us from?
Well, I mean, any number of things. Trump's doing very well, and his popularity hasn't been better, and he's getting a lot of great press and a lot of victories. So maybe the other side wants you to think about something else, and this is their way to do it.
Everyone said, well, he said day one price of eggs would go down and the economy start going up. He said day one he would go in and attack everything. Well, guess what? Things just don't happen at the snap of a finger. But he did go in and snap his finger, and things started to take place. What's happening in the past week?
Well, eggs have gone down.
Eggs have gone down. Other things are starting to come into place. The inflation numbers down bigger than what they thought.
And he said, we're going to have peace. We're going to have peace. I'd get peace in that Ukrainian war. What's he doing?
Right.
He's getting
peace.
Yeah.
Now, I will say this. If they can find a way to upset this apple cart, they will, because they know if everything comes to fruition that he said he was going to do, that's going to be pretty damn impressive. And he's working on it. He's trying to do it. He's put things into play. Will some things go south before they come back going north? Yes. Yeah, it's going to happen.
They got to also take very good care of this president. And by the way, this gets back to what we were talking about with the Secret Service. I sure hope they're on their best. They're doing their A game, because this is a president who I think has got a target on him. we already know he's been shot at once and hit once, by the way. We've got to have a Secret Service that's way ahead of themselves. And I don't know whether they are. I was watching yesterday when he was coming into the Justice Department building, and I saw a couple of Secret Service agents come into a hallway and take a position, and then somebody must have said, no, you're in the wrong spot, get to so-and-so, and they took off almost in a panic out of camera range, and I thought, that doesn't look terribly organized. It looked a little bit like the Keystone Cops, you know? You would like to think that they have planned every single detail of a visit so that there's no doubts about where the president's going to be or what he's going to do, you know, and how to protect him. Again, this goes back to him getting hit in the face with a microphone.
Well, I think that, Trump makes in-the-pocket plays, putting it into football terms. So he will adjust on the line. But they've got to be able to read the cards and know what's going on, and those close to him should be able to do that and adjust everything. So that's a little concerning there. But some good news. Talking about Trump and his agenda and things going forward, and we got to protect him. There's high confidence in J.D. Vance, and there's a big bullpen of contenders for 2028. We'll put it that way. J.D. Vance leads the pack at 39%.
You hear what they did to him at the Kennedy Center yesterday?
What was that?
Day before yesterday. He and his wife went to a performance, I guess it was a symphony performance at the Kennedy Center.
Right.
And he sat in the presidential suite, and when he sat down, the audience booed him. And, of course, the audience of leftist liberal loons, who are patrons of the arts, they're ticked off probably because they're Biden holdovers or Obama holdovers, and they don't like what this administration is doing. But J.D. it rolled off from like water off a duck's back, if you're a conservative and you're out in public and you get booed in a place like that, it means you're doing your job. Yep. Yes, exactly right. Howard Lutnick is the, I believe, Commerce Secretary, and he was talking about what Trump wants to do in the very near future, and a couple of things really struck home. I thought, boy, that sounds really like a good move. Listen.
When the president balances the budget, his first move is going to be, he has suggested that he would like to waive taxes for people under $150,000. That's aspirational, that when we balance the budget, and let me tell you, he's got a plan to balance this budget, right? We are going to take $1 trillion out of the waste, fraud, and abuse of all of our entitlements and all of our systems and all of our waste, and then we are going to raise $1 trillion. That's the Trump card. The Trump gold card is going to be a huge revenue producer. Tariffs are going to be a huge revenue producer. And then getting rid of all the tax scams like Ireland making $75 billion budget surplus. We've got all the ships of the world having Liberian. I mean, imagine a Liberian flag so they get out of paying U.S. taxes. You cut all that stuff out. You got a balanced budget. But on the way, we're going to cut no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security.
Oh, I like it. So right off the bat, he's going to take care of Social Security, no tax on Social Security, which, by the way, that's not new. That's how it was, and it was changed so that they taxed you, which is like double dipping, People say, what do you mean? Well, you paid all your life taxes, then you put money into a fund, and that money had been taxed before, and then you go into that fund to live your retirement on, and they tax you again. All he's saying is, hey, no, that's not going to happen.
And, you're taxed a third time when you die.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. They get you coming and going.
And some states, Democratic states, Pennsylvania being one of them, in other words, a lot of people said, well, hell with Pennsylvania. I'll move to Florida. Pennsylvania, the Democratic state that it was going, oh, well, our tax will follow you wherever you go. So you go ahead and die on the moon if you want to.
Yeah.
We get your money.
New York started that. New York, I think, was into that. They saw a lot of their people moving to Florida, and they figured, well, you moved to Florida, we're still going to tax you. Well, you made your money here, so we're gonna keep sending you a tax bill. I love it. 150. When they balance the budget, and you may say, well, when's that going to happen? Well, the way they're going with Doge, it may happen sooner rather than later. It used to be they talked about it.
Yeah.
They used to talk about it in terms of like decade before they balance the budget. Now they're talking about it in terms of like this year. If they keep finding chunks of money, billions of dollars worth of stolen funds here and there. You heard about Stacey Abrams. There was a fund set up in November by the Biden administration where they channeled, I think it was $2 billion worth of revenue into this Citibank fund, a private fund that they set up in her name, and a few other people had access to it. And they found this when they were doing some searches, and they said, what's Stacey Abrams getting $2 billion squirreled away in an account in her name from the federal government? What did she do? And you have to ask yourself, if they did this to Stacey Abrams, how many other people did they do it to? Exactly.
Well, that's campaign funds, number one. Number two, in case you don't realize this, well, if she doesn't spend all the money, it goes back, right? Nah, goes in her pocket.
A lot of it goes in her pocket. You
got
to ask yourself.
Excuse me, her purse.
Well, a lot of these people, you wonder, what do they do for a living? They're thieves. They are thieves, okay?
Yeah.
Also, what else did I want to mention before? We have so much. I guess we should leave some of this for Monday because I'm looking at the clock. We keep promising ourselves that we will keep our weekend shows shorter, and we never really do. So,
well, there was one thing we didn't talk about.
What was
Two
that?
things we didn't talk about.
All right. Well, you refresh my memory.
Well, we didn't talk about coffee, and we didn't talk about SpaceX. Which one do you want to do
first? Well, let's do the SpaceX first. Yeah, that was interesting. Right. Did you watch the launch, Bill?
I didn't watch it live, but I watched it, and I said, boy, that's an interesting piece of metal. Looks about the size of my...
I saw
looks
that.
like about the size of the hood of my car flying away.
It was on the second stage separation. When the first stage separated, I was amazed, Bill. That's the rock, the booster, right? And that thing came right back and landed on the launch pad
Perfectly.
It was like a scene from the Jetsons. Okay, it came down and there it was, and we got it back. And they'll clean it and they'll make it the wiring's okay, and they'll use it again. That's the neat thing.
They've been doing
about
that over and over again. Yeah, they've got it down now. Elon's rockets have been doing well. Now it's the heavy that they're working on, trying to get that down. That's the one that goes to Mars. This thing had a good liftoff, but I was going, why would something fall off? Why did they miss this? I said, I know. They had to truck that rocket to Florida, to NASA, to lift off.
Yeah, that was on the second stage separation, Bill. And I saw the same thing, and I was wondering, are they going to tell us what that panel is that just flew off?
Well, they said it's not important, and I'm going like, are these astronauts jinxed? They're doomed? Or is this, again, moles working somewhere inside of Boeing, inside of NASA going, we are here to screw up Elon, Well,
what gets me, Bill? They're not talking about this, and I'm very concerned. Have you seen the physical shape of the woman astronaut who's up there, who's been there for 8 months? When she got there, she looked healthy and robust. Now she's gaunt, emaciated, and she looks sick. She looks like she's sick, like she's not eating.
Well, number one, I forget what it is that you got. You actually get taller. You start looking like an alien after you've been up there too long because your body
Zero gravity, yeah.
Zero gravity. I mean, you're down here on Earth. We're made for this. You've got, 14 point so many pounds per square inch of the weight of the atmosphere on you. And I only know that because I used to scuba dive, and you talk about how many atmospheres you go down. But either way, you got that pressure on you all the time. Your body's made for that. It's not made for what is going on up there. That's number one. Number two, you're eating some kind of processed food rations. You're not eating really natural stuff. And they don't have, and I'll just leave it at this, they don't have enough water. Like in ships out at sea.
Sure.
They can take
salt
ocean water and purify it.
Yeah.
You can't send a hose out in space and grab moisture and water. There's nothing there. There's only one source.
There is
for
something
water,
there.
and you have to you have to recycle it.
Yeah.
It comes from you. Let your imagination go wild.
They say, by the way, that when they do that, the water comes out as pure as spring water. Now, you may say, well, how can that be?
I don't want to put it to the test.
Well, apparently, when you get it to drink it the second and third and fourth and fifth time, it's got all the impurities out, all of the poisons and bacteria, and it's fresh water. It's
All
back
right.
to the basics.
Back to the basics, but isn't there something in it that, oxygenated, something that's in there that we need other than taking out the impurities that your body has flushed away? Maybe it's a lot simpler than what I imagine. I don't know. But I don't want to be the guinea pig, and I'm saying that there's something that she's not getting nutritionally.
Maybe she's not drinking the water, Bill.
Well, that could be.
Yeah, maybe she's not drinking.
I ain't drinking that crap. What are you talking about? You drink it, okay?
When she comes back, and if she runs to the nearest, water bubbler someplace, as soon as she gets off the plane.
Instead of putting a little paper cup there, she takes the whole jug off.
Exactly. Anyway, that'll be happening tonight. We record this on a Saturday, so about 11 o'clock or 11:30 tonight, they're supposed to dock with the space station, and I guess they're talking about a return to Earth on Wednesday. I guess they.
Here's my question: Are they going to take a look and see what came off?
Well,
I'll be danged. The hood of the car came off there. I don't know. We can't fly back without it.
Well, boy, I don't know. They probably are doing all sorts of work throughs right now, trying to figure out how to fix it.
Well, they're not going to tell us. And I think there was somebody didn't tighten down the screws just right for that to happen. And I don't think it was Elon's people. I think it was somebody else, because that rocket was moved to a different launch site. So I got to wonder about that. That booster that takes it up and comes back and lands.
What's amazing? What I've noticed as I've gotten older, and it's
it's
justifiably so, is how many of us distrust our government now. I went my whole life just giving it the deference that I think it deserved. I always thought the government was on our side and it was honest and could be trusted. I just did. And that's how we all thought. And now, here it is, 2025. A large faction of our society just doesn't trust the government anymore. I mean, it's not that they're doing anything subversive, or they just, when you talk to them in their dialogue, there's this doubt about whether things are happening right. Like you, right? You're one of the things you just said is you think that maybe somebody might have sabotaged or tried to sabotage that flight.
Well, you learn things from experience. And why I don't trust is, I look at the nature of things, the nature of mankind, but I also look at, three individuals, I won't name names, that I grew up in school with, that you couldn't trust. They'd stick you in the back. They'd steal from you. They were very nefarious people. All three of them are in government. And I'm like going,
Enough said. Next. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Need I say anything more?
Hey, listen, I'll tell you, we should remind you that we sell a coffee to help support this program. It's called Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee. It's in our store online. And all you have to do to go there is to go to our website, it'sanotherday.com, and you'll see a picture of the bag. We have what do they call it when it rotates along the screen, and you can, there's the bag of coffee. You click on the bag.
It's like a scroller. Yeah, it just goes through everything.
You click on the bag of coffee, it takes you right to the description, and if you want to order a bag, you can do it right there. It's not going to break your bank, but it's going to help our show, because a little bit of the profits come to us. We in turn are going to take it and promote our program and try to get beyond the $4 million a week that we get.
I don't know what you're going to do, but I'm going to take my money. I'm going to Disney World.
Good for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure I am.
You and Dumbo. Anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, Dumbo is he's not back in the White House. He left. Nobody knows where Dumbo
Yeah,
is.
he's with Joe Biden in Delaware.
No, Biden is Dumbo. Yeah.
Anyway, try our coffee, Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee. Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee, available at itsanotherday.com. And try it, please, so you can help us promote the program and also help Juan and Jose and the Border Crossers make a living.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Anyway, my friend, that's about it for me. I have nothing more to add. We'll, I'm sure, have a whole fresh batch of something to talk about on Monday.
A whole cadre, as they say.
Yes, you should join us, too. And if you have friends who don't listen, tell them about the show. Tell them why you like it and tell them why you think that they should give it a shot. Because every new listener is important to the program.
Well, I'll be sure to join us on Monday, and I'll bring some friends, too.
Good. And with that, I'm done.
Yeah, I'm done, too, obviously. So, there's only one thing left to do, and that's hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.